my name is Attorney Walter Rudolph, not the third, and these are the 5 things that are quite literally cancer to government benefits. And I want you to go through basically understanding what these things are, and these are things that we want and hope President Biden is going to watch out for when creating the new legislation that will be coming out during his term as president. Here we go. Number 1. New bills need to have auxiliary benefit reduction restrictions built into them. If it goes up, meaning the money you receive, but everything else takes away from what's gone up, this thing costs more, that thing costs more, etc., it hasn't actually gone up. In fact, if some people receive more, they cut off the ability of the person to go ahead and receive certain benefits. There needs to be built into these bills auxiliary benefit reduction restrictions. That way they have an immunity from those potential harmful factors that reduce that person's ability to receive benefits. Number 2, make sure you know how it's getting paid for. If something is passed in the House but has no way of realistically getting paid for, it won't pass the Senate. That's very important. A lot of these bills will come forward, the House will have this, and they won't put in the provisions needed to. Maybe they'll put in some things about payment or this or that, but they won't put in how it's actually going to play out. The Senate is, in my opinion, like the mommy and daddy of the legislative process when it comes to the House. They're the ones there figuring out can this thing work? How are we going to make this thing work? Stuff like that. Okay, so in that regard, if you see the House come out with something and it doesn't have enough meat on its bones for how it's going to actually be done, the utilitarian aspect of it, it's probably not going to pass the Senate. 3, look for large payments in small sentences to things that shouldn't be named in the bill. The larger the bill, the less likely people will notice that there are things in there that shouldn't be in there. So look for large payments in small sentences to things that shouldn't be named in the bill. That's a good way to look at the bill and say, why is there $1 million going to this? Why is there $1 billion going to that? It's incredibly important to understand that there's a lot of things going on. Our military has a lot of bases all over the place, and yet there's no agreement as to how much we pay that other country that is formal. Well, for some reason they get $1 billion there, this happens or whatever. There's all these systems in place, and not all of them are contractual in the sense of written, So with that said, look for those things because they do tend to slip those things in. And that is a form of cancer to the country because, unfortunately, at the end of the day, it's probably not the will of the people if they have to do the voting in the middle of the night or they have to do the voting where they're just shoving it through. 4, look for last-minute changes, write-ins, etc., or look for withheld presidential signatures over one-liners. These tend to invite additional fixes that end up eroding the purpose of the bill. So sometimes bills will get held up where the president said, well, I'm not going to go ahead and sign this if it has that. And then all of a sudden the news comes out and says, okay, well, we have this senator on here. We have this House rep on here that wants to tell us about this. And the senator or the House rep goes, oh, we fixed that. We made the president happy. We put in additional details. They're going to be yada, yada, yada. Watch out for that. That's usually where additional things are being slipped into the bill that were not originally part of the intended purpose of the bill. And as a result, you unfortunately end up with legislation that is part of some sort of agenda. So watch out for that. Okay, number 5. Look for current events that go against the nature of the bill. For example, a mass shooting occurs and the politicians pull back a bill that would have advocated for gun rights. Same idea for passing a higher minimum wage and stores pulling out of an area because they don't want to go ahead and have to pay the employees for that area. Or they'll go ahead and get rid of more spots for where there were people that they were hiring to do jobs, and they will just automate those jobs with machines. Kind of like, Walmart with all the automation that occurs there. So the point here is this. Things magically seem to occur in the United States that change the perception of the people to go ahead and say, hey, we need a law for that. And when you're sitting there and thinking, hey, we need a law for that, when you have that thought, it is usually manufactured, in my opinion, by what's going on in the United States. So just keep that in mind. Number 6. I know we're supposed to do top 5, but I always do more. Look for shared story spins, such as, for example, news anchors and politicians all knowing the same talking points and coming out with the same arguments. There is a hive mind going on with that, and it's called manipulation. And it's usually manipulation through what's called people who pay for things to happen. So for example, special interests, which is just another way of saying somebody with a lot of money passes money to somebody else, some group, organization, nonprofit, whatever. And then as a result of that, that nonprofit, that group, that special interest, whatever, will go ahead and pay individuals to have a particular agenda or opinion, or just pay to be in front of them to present it. But we know how that works. So 7, look for large donations from special interest groups who are paid for by corporations that are seeking a particular outcome. The politicians use these donations to mass advertise, pay for staffing, events, and transportation. So the whole point here is this, and I think it's incredibly important. You have to follow the money because the money dictates the change, and the change is set up by the money. So when you hear these phrases, the soul of America or America great again and stuff like that, these are cute emotional reflexes, they're not, they're not the nitty-gritty that is really the thing that's going to make it all better. But they're cute and they're nice and they feel good. But the thing is, there are groups that usually pay for a particular agenda, whether it's to be subsidized, whether it's to have access to something. It could be anything. An oil field that's untapped, a road, a train, the building of an infrastructure, a pipeline, whatever. Look for essentially where the money is coming from and where it's going. Who are making the largest donations? Why are these large donations being made? Well, think about it. If the company really liked that person, then they wouldn't need to donate lots of money to them because they're already on track with what they already like. But if the person or company has to make a large donation, then that means that they are essentially liking that person with the expectation of having the person running for the political office to like them in return. Because otherwise, why would you make such a large donation if you were already on track with what they wanted? These are all forms of cancer to new bills because they change the outcome of what the bill was originally intended for. Probably the worst offender of this situation would be something like Obamacare. Obamacare, the whole point of it was to go ahead and have a system that paid for the homeless and low income that couldn't afford health insurance so that they wouldn't have to actually buy into something. Did they ultimately achieve that goal? No. That's why it's unfortunate. All right, guys, I will catch you a little bit later. Have an absolutely wonderful day. I'm trying to give you guys sort of a general higher understanding of how this law works. I'll catch you a little bit later. Remember, I go live from 8 to 10 every Thursday, 8 to 10 p.m. on YouTube, Eastern Standard Time. If you want to catch up with me and ask me questions, that's the time, 8 to 10 every Thursday. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.